25/8 is in the business of time. We help leaders of small and medium-sized businesses work smarter, not harder, so they feel like they have an extra hour in the day and day in the week. Go from don't know what I don't know to I can't miss this show, as we talk proven strategies, practical tips and insider insights from a diverse range of industry leaders. Make time to grow your capabilities and confidence with 25/8. For many small businesses, the hardest part of the last decade hasn't been a lack of effort or ideas. It's been the constant downward pressure on price, the speed at which larger enterprises can replicate ideas, and the flood of cheaper, often imported alternatives that make customers question value. This isn't a failure of small business capability, it's the result of globalized supply chains, platform economies, and scale-driven competition. Economic research consistently shows that scale advantages purchasing power, automation, marketing reach, which disproportionately benefits large firms. Yet, paradoxically, small business remain critical to innovation, employment, and local economic resilience. The question is no longer how do I compete on price, it's how do I remain viable without eroding who I am. A customer walks into a small retail shop. They ask questions, handle products, get ideas from the owner's expertise. Then they go home and order a cheaper imported version online. In renewables, specialist engineering firms that maintain and repair wind turbine components have been squeezed out. This is not because they're incompetent, but because it's cheaper in the short term to replace parts with new imports than to maintain equipment properly. Is this just retail trends or market forces? What happens to a place when the businesses that hold deep capability close the doors? These businesses hold the things economies depend on, but struggle to measure, like creative originality, specialist technical knowledge, local supply chain resilience, and skill transfer. So how can small businesses stay viable and compete without becoming something or someone they're not? Welcome to this episode of Make Time, where I'll give you practical ways you can stay viable in a world of giants and cheap copies. I'm your host, Sam, and I'm passionate about helping you and your business thrive by working smarter, not harder. And thank you for joining me on this episode. So why does undercutting happen? Digital marketplaces collapse geographic boundaries. A customer can compare your price with a factory-produced alternative in seconds. Economists note that this creates commoditization pressure when products are compared without context, story, or service differentiation. Globalization plus platforms equals extreme price visibility. Secondly, scale economies are structural, not necessarily fair. Research in industrial economics show that large firms benefit from lower marginal costs, supplier leverage, automation, and capital intensity. Small businesses were never meant to win on cost alone, yet many feel forced to try. Thirdly, copying is easier than ever. Design, branding, and even language can be replicated rapidly. The World Intellectual Property Organization has documented the rises of this and labeled it fast imitation economies, where originality is quickly diluted. You might say to yourself, why bother innovating if it's just copied? The evidence still says that small business matter, though. Despite these pressures, research consistently shows that small businesses are not obsolete, but their role is changing. We know that small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, drive job creation and local resilience. Innovation disproportionately comes from smaller, more adaptive firms. Communities with strong local business ecosystems recover faster from economic shocks. OECD research highlights that regions with diverse small enterprises are more economically stable over time, even when global supply chains falter. So, what do futurists say about the future economy? Several futurists and economists argue that the next economy may actually favour smaller, value driven businesses if they adapt correctly. So, it might be that we go from scale to meaning. Peter Drucker argued decades ago that knowledge, not capital, would become the primary economic driver. And in a post industrial economy, context, trust, and expertise matter more than volume. The rise of localized value. Jeremy Rifkin predicts a shift towards distributed, localized production as energy, logistics, and climate pressures rise. This makes proximity, adaptability, and human connection more valuable. The experience economy, is this a trend or a structural shift? Michael Porter's work on competitive advantage shows that sustainable advantage increasingly comes from unique value systems, not cost leadership. So small businesses are structurally better at personalization, trust-based relationships, and rapid adaptation. So rather than one future, economists suggest multiple overlapping economic models. The first one, the trust economy, where customers increasingly choose based on transparency, ethics, local impact, and human connection. Small businesses already operate here. Often we don't name it, though. The second is the resilience economy. As supply chains fracture, resilience becomes a competitive advantage. Small businesses can pivot faster, source locally, as long as we still have the capability, and redesign offerings quickly. The capability economy. This is where value shifts from what you sell to what you know. Education, expertise, service layers, and advisory become critical revenue streams here. We're already seeing this shift in engineering, where if you've got broad understanding of how all of the different components come together, systems engineering, you're more valuable. So, what are practical ways small businesses can build resilience without selling their soul? What we want to do is stop competing where we might be weak. So, don't compete purely on price, basically. Instead, identify what customers rely on you far beyond the product. See if you can find that invisible value, that time saved, the risk reduced, the confidence gained. List the top 5 reasons customers choose you that aren't price. And if you can't do that, that's the work you need to do. Secondly, think about designing for differentiation. We're not going to win on volume. So resilient small business need to narrow their offer or serve fewer people better or build depth instead of reach. This aligns with research on focus strategies, outperforming broad ones for SMEs. For example, we know at 25/8 that we benefit those with a technical, creative, or service-based business. Those with a deep expertise or passion for what they do are a bit stuck getting to the next stage or at a pivotal point in their business and want to get to the next steps right. All of them see the value in building their own skills through the process. And even seasoned business owners benefit from our process because the good ones know that they don't know what they don't know. And they value our transparent approach, our credibility, and the fact that we get results. And we don't suit those who are looking for someone to do it for them or just to tell them what to do. We serve small businesses, but not just small businesses. We've identified the type of business that we might serve, but not just that type. We've also identified the psychographics of who we serve, the stage that they might be in, or the type of person they might be, the characteristics. So it's more than just the demographics. So when we're thinking about how we differentiate, how do we differentiate based on who we serve? Then we want to think about how we can layer value around what our core offering is. We still want to be able to scale, and so we still have this core offering. But if products can be copied, systems and relationships can't. So think about post-sale specialist maintenance, for example, or education or support bundled in with products, or having ongoing access to expertise or personalization or customization in some way. And this shifts you from just a vendor to a partner. And then think about this invisible value and make that visible. Most of the time, we under communicate our value. We're often too busy doing. That's one of the challenges. But we need to be able to translate our craft into that expertise so our customers understand that level of expertise. They need to understand why us caring about what we do, us really caring about the output, helps them with their risk reduction. The fact that, for example, with 25/8, that we care so deeply about increasing your skills and the outcomes for your business, that's what we measure. We don't measure attendance. It doesn't matter how many people will purchase from us. For us, it's all about the outcomes. And that reduces the risk of your investment in a program because you know you're going to get an outcome. And so how can you translate that for what you do? Because you care about what you do. It's not necessarily just about the numbers. It's really about the outcomes that you get for your customers and letting them know that so that they can see that as a risk reduction, which influences their decision when it comes to engagement. Think about then your experience and how that makes you more efficient at what you do. So it's really about translating what it is that we do really well into something that our customers will understand and as a benefit to them. They don't always infer value. They need help to see it. And that's part of the process, part of what we need to do. Think about your own capability, not just the output. The most resilient small businesses focus on their own strategic thinking, decision-making quality, and digital business literacy. You know what's happening in the world so that you can adapt, so that you know what you need to do. So that influences your decision. Your own development ensures that you have the tools to make smart decisions about what to do in your business. Hopefully, the future doesn't belong exclusively to the cheapest, fastest, or biggest. It belongs to businesses that know what they stand for, that understand where they add real value, that build their capability to adapt without losing any integrity. I'm starting to see a shift. Small businesses don't need to become corporations to survive. But having clarity, confidence, and systems that support smart choices makes them a lot more resilient. I posted an article on LinkedIn recently that discussed this subject. Following a post I'd seen on Instagram by a local small business, they were closing their retail side of the business because they were sick of people coming in to get ideas and then getting cheaper copies online. They even had someone stand outside the front of their shop and went on and told someone on the phone that's exactly what they were doing. In the article, I detailed what many of us could consider as consumers, as government, and as the business yourself, so that we can continue to see our small businesses in our local communities. We'll link the article in the show notes. I talk about can't be copied moats, and this is your ability to maintain a competitive advantage. Think about your IP tied to your service delivery, the way you do business, not just what it is that you do in your business. Think about the data and the insights that you have from your years of work and consider value-based pricing. Think maybe about exclusivity. I am definitely seeing some shifts from consumers, but I still think there's a long way to go. And there's been certain policy changes in Australia to support more of our SMEs. However, it will require our resilience. It will require us being able to adapt, thinking on our feet, being able to differentiate and ensure our survival through smart choices in pricing and availability and things like that. Cheap copies definitely can undercut price, but they can't replicate judgment, trust, context, or care. And those are strengths of smaller businesses. And I'm hoping they're the foundations of the next economy. Thanks for listening to Make Time, a business podcast by 25/8. If you like the show, please take a moment to write a review and feedback on what you'd like to hear next. If you never want to miss an episode, hit subscribe or follow on your favourite listening channel. If you want to get even smarter, join our newsletter, community, or take one of our programs. Links down below. See you next time.